What's going on, guys?
Brian
and Gavin here from the Grain of Salt podcast. This is episode 20. We're going to be learning about our friend Mark's testimony. He talks about his marriage, addictions, whether it's drugs, sexual desires. Let's get right into it, guys.
We love you guys. Peace.
But I had a problem with not listening to advice, and I always had to kind of experience it. As I got to college, now it's like, okay, now I'm like, I want to try acid, I want to try DMT, I want to try cocaine, I want to try anything that I can get my hands on that I see isn't killing the person next to me. The first person who was bold enough to put it in their body, and then we see they didn't die in 5 minutes, just, like you said, I just wanted to feel good, and those things made me feel good, but it was always temporary.
Hey, really antisocial with it. They want the beat, but I really been moving kosher with it. So prolific, really I ain't trying to boast. Y'all like tight of both.
What's going on, guys?
Yeah, y'all been coasting with it.
This is the Grain of Salt podcast.
I don't know why that's such like a...
What's the name of the podcast?
Grain of Salt.
You know why it's called Grain of Salt?
Grain of Salt.
Do you know why?
We're the salt of the earth.
That's one of the reasons.
It's a good reason, but
it's because whenever we do the intro, we say the number one podcast that you should take with a grain of salt, because we don't want everyone to just listen to what we're saying and just not do their research, you know?
Yeah, they should do their research because you're in a fact-checking society.
Yeah.
Right? Kind of thing.
what episode is this? This is 20?
20. Oh, dude, 20. Episode 20.
20?
I think it deserves like a round of applause.
Yeah, well, anyways, this is episode 20 of Grain of Salt podcast. We have a new guest today, my friend Mark. Would you like to introduce yourself, Mark?
Yeah, so like you said, my name is Mark. Full name is Mark Robles. I'm a junior at FAU. I met Brandon and Gavin when I was at Crew. And Crew, they're probably familiar with Crew, maybe not.
They're probably tired of hearing about Crew at this point. Crew is like so much of what we talk about.
Met him there. And been following God for about a year now. And really just, just trying to live life, stay holy, stay with God, feeding the spirit, not the flesh. That's a little bit about me, but yeah.
Dude, that's good. Well, guys, basically, I don't know if we said this yet, but I know last week we didn't have a guest, but we are going to try to have a lot of guests on every single week.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is that we asked them what they want to talk about. And Mark here has a very unique story. So we are going to be talking about his testimony, and I guess you'll see. We'll be talking about some aspects of his life that are profound. And if you want to come on the podcast, just DM us, text us, post us somewhere, say, dude, Grain of Salt podcast, #1 South Florida podcast that you should take with a grain of salt.
If we could get any of you guys to clip farm us also and post us on TikTok. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, guys, I think we would eventually like to just dude, one of my dreams, I just want to share it with you guys because I don't think we've ever talked about this. One of my dreams that I see with the podcast is traveling all over the world to just interview the coolest people. I think that sounds so dope.
That does present.
Yeah. And we got one of the coolest people ever here, Mark. I'm about to learn.
Just wait until.
I'm about to learn about you, Mark, because I don't really know too much. I know Brandon knows you a lot better than I do, but I'm so happy you're here and I'm excited to hear your story.
Yeah, I've actually never gotten the chance to go super deep with you guys. I know I've spoke to Brandon a little bit more about my testimony and who I am, but I haven't really spoken to you much about it at all.
It's authentic.
Bro, wait, I have a question.
Yes.
Did you pray over me one day outside of Crew or no?
I don't think I did.
Okay. Because I thought maybe you did, but I don't remember who it was that did it.
I don't think I did.
Okay. Just wondering.
Well, Mark, I would love to ask you the question just to start off. Why do you follow Jesus?
So the simplest way I could put it was I always believed in God. I always believed in Jesus in particular. I just kind of grew up believing in Jesus, just kind of there has to be someone, and I think it's God or Jesus in this case. And I came to a pretty simple conclusion of, okay, I'm living my life this way. The Bible says to live it that way. And if I don't live my life with Jesus, I'm going to go to hell. And I just started following God from there. I didn't really have any visions or dreams. I just kind of came to a sober conclusion as well. That was pretty important for me, being sober.
How old were you?
This was last year, so I was 20.
Okay.
I just turned 21. My birthday was literally 10 days ago.
Oh, dude.
So
Happy birthday.
Just 21.
Have you legally drank yet?
I don't think I did.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. But I would love to just go deeper into that. Just give us your testimony. Could take as much time as you want. I guess we could ask specific questions if you'd like.
Oh, whatever you guys want to do, bro. I'm going.
Yeah, I'm like, I would love to just listen and
I just want
ask
to listen
some
to
questions
you.
along the way.
Yeah, like just give me your idea of what your testimony is.
Okay, so I'm going to try and go from the very beginning because I believe that there's a lot of roots traumatically
Yeah.
that can play a huge role in people's lives, not just in the role of God. Well, I think God is in the middle of everything. But if you're trying to look from a scientific standpoint, there's a lot of psychological problems. I just recently learned that a lot of murderers, oftentimes, they're it's a sexual thing for them. They get turned on by it in a sense.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it never lives up to their expectation because they're fantasizing and hyping it up. And that's what turns them into a serial killer. They can't stop, but it's a sexual root. And I think sexual immorality is a really big problem, and obviously in the world in general. And that was where it started for me. So now with my testimony, around 3rd grade is when I discovered like jacking off, porn, looking at girls lustfully, and I actually got caught by my teacher humping my jacket in class. And to this day, I don't think I've ever seen someone with a more like disgusted look on their face. And when I look back at it now, I mean, I understand. And when I was so young, I was like, like I got caught doing something bad.
Mm.
But it started there. So 3rd grade, I started like, jacking off and looking at women lustfully and having very dark fantasies, like sexually. But even sometimes it would involve violence and very things that I didn't understand them, but it just did it. And from there, just kind of progressed, now 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, and now other people are starting to learn about this. And my peers and people that I'm friends with at this point, we're starting to like openly talk about porn and watch this stuff and talk about it and joke about it. And now we're starting to make more vulgar jokes. We're really young and we're cursing and I was never big on stealing, but sometimes we would steal and like we were just very, mainly I would say morally corrupt. Mm-hmm. I was trying my best to be a good person at that point in my life because I was still trying to be like, I don't want to be like mean to people. But behind closed doors, I was dabbling in a lot of things that no one should dabble in. But even at that young of an age, it was very early of a start for me. So, like I said, cursing, sexual immorality, lying, backstabbing, started at a very young age. And then kind of progressed into high school. That's when I started like smoking and stuff. So I didn't really do drugs in middle school or anything. But in high school, I started to smoke weed, vape. I had a buddy that introduced me to smoking and stuff. And in high school, I didn't really do anything crazy either. I wasn't like in the club or anything. I didn't have a fake ID. Most of the crazy stuff happened in college. Mm-hmm. So far my testimony really just started with, sexual immorality and slowly getting into drugs and also people pleasing. That was something I struggle with to this day, unconsciously, but people pleasing was a big part for me in high school. I really struggled to not try my best to act like somebody I wasn't. And I would say I didn't really know who I was until this day, and I'm still learning who I am through God and like finding facets of my life that I struggle with. Because when I came to God, He exposed everything. Everything that I struggle with, and now I'm having the opportunity because of God to fix that stuff. But people pleasing, I had a lot of friends, but they weren't my friends. They were people that we would party with or hang out with and just try to act cool for. And whatever it was that they wanted to hear, I would say it, even if I didn't agree with it, just so I could party, or they would smoke me out, or give me a drink or two or a beer, and like just their validation was a lot to me. It meant a lot to me. So that was probably my biggest problem in high school, and even in college it carried over. And then, like I said, in college all the crazy stuff went down. So now we're kind of at that point. And this is when I started doing like really hard drugs. So I was getting ready to rush a fraternity and everything, and I won't name anything, but as I was starting to rush a fraternity, I started getting more interested in like psychedelics and drugs. And my senior year of high school, I was kind of going into college still, I started doing shrooms, and that stuff wasn't really too crazy or anything. Never really had like a religious trip or anything. It was always just kind of like laughing and stupid stuff. But as I got to college, now it's like, okay, now I'm like, I want to try acid. I want to try DMT. I want to try cocaine. I want to try anything that I can get my hands on that I see isn't killing the person next to me. Because we were all like, oh, we'll get a fentanyl test or whatever. But really, it was just the first person who was bold enough to put it in their body. And then we see they didn't die in 5 minutes. They would just do it. So that's what I started doing, cocaine. And a little side note, cocaine I think is the scariest drug ever because it is so addictive. Dude, I my first time doing it, it's crazy because it doesn't last long, but right after you're like, I want to do it again. I want to. You feel really, really good and really zoned in, and not even like you're particularly focused, but you're locked in. It's kind of a weird medium, at least for what I was experiencing, but I was so surprised at how badly I wanted to do it again. And that was really scary because I woke up for like a month or two after. I only did it for like a couple weeks straight, which is still enough time to get hooked, but woke up like a month after. The first thing on my mind every day was cocaine, and I was like, bro, that's really scary.
You like woke up and just craved it?
Every day.
Wow.
Thankfully, I didn't keep doing it, but it was really scary. I didn't think, everyone said I was addicted, and I was like, yeah, whatever. But I had a problem with not listening to advice, and I always had to kind of experience it.
Wow.
And then from there, like I said, acid, we did you familiar with like a hero dose or something?
I did not know.
A hero dose?
Yeah, it's basically like way more than you're ever supposed to take. So me and a couple guys did that, and this kid experienced like an ego death, and that was really scary.
What is that?
Kind of different for everybody, but for him, for 4 hours straight, every 7 minutes, he would restart.
What do you mean?
Like if we started right here, and then 7 minutes passed, he would end up here again. And experience everything over for 4 hours straight.
Oh my gosh.
And it was really scary that we thought that he was like done.
Wow.
And I experienced a lot of things like that I didn't, you don't expect it to happen until it happens, but just a lot of wild things like that.
Could you explain I don't know what a DMT is.
So apparently DMT, I'm not super well versed on it, but apparently DMT is produced in your body when you die. So when you die, DMT is a chemical produced. And when you smoke DMT, you're supposed to be able to live like a whole other life. If you do enough of it, you can live a whole other life in a matter of 30 minutes. There's cases of people that trip really hard on DMT and come back and they're like, where's my family? And they're like, and the people with are like, what are you talking about? Like, we just smoked DMT. But this guy just had a life where he had 3 kids and a job, and he lives in like Massachusetts, but really he's in Florida.
Wow.
On a couch in some basement.
There's a lot of like experiences people report with this.
Yes.
Dude, that's crazy.
People live whole other lives. I didn't go that far, but I did it enough to the point where like I would close my eyes and I would see like 3D visuals and stuff, and just nothing that deep.
You know, I have some questions, but I want to hear you finish your testimony, and then I'll just hop back and
Ask them real quick if you want.
Okay, so like when you were like going on all these trips and stuff, did you ever experience anything demonic happen?
So that's the crazy thing. I personally never experienced anything I would say demonic or religious or spiritual, and I had a lot of friends that have told me they met God on DMT.
Yeah.
My brother, I'm not DMT, shrooms. My brother, me and him tripped together. He was seeing like things that were like fighting him, and I had to like walk up to him and be like, yo, like what are you doing? He's like, bro, this thing's trying to fight me. And I'm like, that's just the mushrooms, bro. I don't know what to tell you. But now I look back on it, it's like there was probably something spiritual there that he was like seeing.
Yeah, because I know some people believe that like the whole like idea of it kind of opens your eyes to like a spiritual realm when you're high, like 'cause that's what some people believe.
There's a whole book written on these people that some people believe the Bible was written off people who were off these shrooms. I don't believe it. I saw this on Joe Rogan's podcast. It was like something about how shrooms is like just specifically shrooms. It's like some spiritual thing.
Yeah, I never heard that, but I have heard the mass hysteria theory. That has to do with like when it's kind of not similar to this, but I guess it is. But when Jesus appeared to like however many people, it was like 500 people, right?
Yeah.
After he died.
Yeah.
An argument against that is the mass hysteria theory that everyone was tripping on something, but that's easily debunked because it was all different times.
Yeah. So okay, so you're struggling with all these addictions. What happens next?
All right, so near the end, the most addicted I was to anything was nicotine, weed, drinking, lust, and that was probably it for drugs. I wasn't really hooked on the Molly or anything. I did Molly, I did ketamine, and the DMT, the shrooms. Those were all kind of like just. I did Xanax as well. I did lean, did everything. All that I was just curious.
Yeah,
and I think curiosity, was very bad.
Curiosity killed the cat.
Yes, and near the end for me. Wait, what was your question again? I'm kind of.
So yeah, like so what happens next? You're addicted to all these things. What happens after that?
So after all this happens, after I go to a rave with my buddy and I do ketamine and I think it's Molly. And after that rave, I'm at home for the summer. And this whole year's passed. I've done everything I told you now. This is my freshman year of college. And I'm going into that summer, going into sophomore year. And I'm just at home and I'm alone. And I was sober. Wasn't high, didn't have any weed, no vape, no drugs, nothing. And I didn't have anybody around. And oftentimes that freshman year, I was very busy, always partying, doing something. So I never really had time to think. But there was an experience I had with this guy on the breezeway. I don't know if you guys encountered them. It was the guys going around preaching the On Hong Sung guy. It's some church where they believe this Korean guy is like the second coming of Christ.
Bold?
So like, huh?
Is it Bold?
I don't think so.
No, Bold believes that like everyone has to be like,
Oh, that's baptism, right?
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I know what you're talking about. The other, yeah.
But I ran into these guys, and granted, they were a false church because they believe this On Hong Sung guy is like Jesus, and it's proven that he not only has he sinned, but the Bible talks against him, saying that beware of false prophets and people coming in my name. And I guess I didn't see that, but they came up to me one day and started talking to me about God when I was pledging, and it just kind of made me think about God, and I started really thinking like, okay, like I said when I came to God, I was kind of like, all right, I'm living this way. And for a couple of weeks, I kind of sat on that and thought about it. And then I get home for the summer and I'm alone. And that's when I came to that conclusion of like, okay, I'm living this way. Bible says live that way. I'm going to try and start living like the Bible. And slowly from there, I try to read the Bible more. Like me and my fiance now, we had dated, had a secular relationship. And somehow when she came home from the summer and we were hanging out, like still doing the wrong things. And, she told me she was also trying to get closer to God too. I was like, no way, that's pretty crazy. So as she's trying to get closer to God and I'm trying to get closer to God, I kind of talked to her and I was like, hey, we're kind of doing all these wrong things and I want to pursue God and you want to pursue God, but if we can't put God first in our relationship, then I'm not going to talk to you anymore. And she wanted to do that. Wow. So that was
you guys been dating for since before that?
Before that, we were like friends with benefits for my senior year of high school for like 3 months. So going into my freshman year of college. And we dated freshman year for like 3 months, all the way until like October. I cheated on her. I told her everything. Came clean. I was really guilty. And then from there, we were kind of on and off. I would unblock her, block her. She would come see me. I'd talk to her, whatever. We'd hang out, like have sex, and then block her again. Like it was just very toxic.
Yeah.
And then we get to that point where she's home for the summer, I'm home for the summer, and we're both kind of pursuing God. And that's when I kind of put it out there like, hey, I want to go with God.
Yeah. So you guys are both choosing to pursue God together. Was there any like coming to Jesus moment where it's like you decided like, dude, I got to be all in on this? Like, was there any moment that changed everything for you or no?
I'd say the biggest moment was not instantly, but more later on. So we came to that conclusion around sometime in summer. I can't remember, but going into, I think it's my sophomore year of college now, and it's, I think like October again, and we're dating and we're like, all right, biblically, there's really no like boyfriend, girlfriend stage. What should we do? Like, should we get married? And we fasted for 21 days. Just like really strict, like basically keto, vegetarian, vegan, all combined, like no sugar, no processed stuff. And we fasted for 21 days. And I think this was really the part where we really started like going all the way in, because we were still implementing stuff and getting better. But this is where it's like, all right, like if we're going to go this far, then we've got to like, we've got to do this.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah. And from there, we're like, all right, the Bible says we got to choose to love each other. Yeah, I feel this way about you, but I'm not always going to feel this way. I have to choose you in every moment, because sometimes we're going to have those butterflies, that amazing feeling, but other days I'm not going to want to talk to you, but I have to choose you and choose this relationship and put you first. Of course, God has to come first, but like before, like my mother and my father, like the Bible says, I leave my mother and my father and become one with my wife.
Right, yeah.
So I had to put that into play in my life. And from there, we really started getting deep with God, because that fast was amazing for us. And even before that, we were still growing, but I was still struggling with smoking a little bit. I don't smoke anymore. We were still kind of weeding out like the main huge things. A lot of things changed really quick, but I would say that was the turning point.
Yeah, no. So that's kind of the story on how you got saved. Now, what happened before we get to the questions, like what has happened since you've been saved to now?
Since I've been saved to now, I don't remember if I said this on camera. I said it off camera. I might have said it both times. But no, I said it on camera. Being exposed to the things and who I really am. That is where I'm at right now. So now that I'm kind of like at a year being baptized, I'm really trying to be more intentional about feeding the spirit and not feeding the flesh, because that is what I have found is the conclusion for all things in the faith, in my opinion. Because if I'm spending more time on Instagram than I'm spending in my word, that I'm spending in prayer, how do I expect to spend eternity with God? You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
I'm still worshiping the social media, and I struggle with this a lot. But now I'm just at the point where it's all being exposed, and I'm very guilty about things, and I struggle. But whenever I go to God, you know, it's perfect. It's amazing. He's so good. So that's kind of where I'm at now. Where I'm at is, like I said, just, okay, I think I'm people-pleasing right now. Let me spend time in the Word and move away from that. Let me stick to what's true. I've been spending too much time on social media. I fell into sexual sin with whether it's like pornography or my fiance. You know, we have to hit that real quick and go to God. Like, even when I'm not struggling, I have to be ready, because the Bible says, like, if you think you're doing good, like, you're not. Like, be ready. I forget the verse exactly, but it's basically saying, like, if you think you're standing strong, just wait, because this temptation coming. Like, life's going to come.
1 Peter 5:8, like, be of sober mind, for your adversary the devil prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. Like, he's always there. It doesn't say, like, don't be sober sometimes and be cautious sometimes. It's like, always be sober and be vigilant. So I like how you put that a lot.
I have a question. So I heard you brought up a 21-day fast. I think that that's amazing, first of all. And I also think that fasting is kind of a lost practice of the Christian faith, I guess, from what I've experienced, so in the U.S. and in the past couple decades. But why did you come to the decision to fast, and what did that look like? And then what were, like, the benefits you saw? Like, what was that decision? Like, why did you choose to fast?
So my fiance, before my girlfriend at the time, she proposed it. She said, hey, you guys are familiar with that Gabriella and Elisa girl that was really popular on TikTok at a point?
Yes.
She's with God now.
Yes.
And apparently her and her husband, they fasted for 21 days, and she came to me and was like, hey, we should do this, because we were talking about it.
Wow. I just said interesting.
Yeah, but I thought you were going to say something. I was like, my bad. But she came to me because we were talking about engagement and marriage and what we should do about it, and I was like, yes, let's do it. Like, let's fast. And it was my first ever fast.
So you guys fasted, and you came to the realization, and how long after that were you guys engaged?
I proposed to her like a month or two after that. Nice. Because I was in school and I had to get money for a ring, and it wasn't like expensive. It was like $300.
But when's the marriage?
We're probably going to elope and just get married in the courthouse, because we want to move in at some point in the next year and a half. Yeah. And then we're going to have a wedding down the line when, like, you know, our money's right. We have a celebration.
I'm so happy for you. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Sorry. Bro, I'm going to start jumping into some questions if you're okay with that.
Let's go.
So, to me, a lot of your testimony spans, it struggles with addiction, a bunch of different things of addiction. And so my question is, were you constantly just chasing things to make you feel good, or why do you think you fell into a lot of these, like, addictive things, like in the form of drugs or pornography? Like, what do you think that stems from?
So you actually hit it right on the head. I just wanted to feel good. I thought life meant being happy, having a good time. And the other thing was also, like, when I would be upset or mad. This is actually something that I don't think enough people have talked about in their life and been vulnerable about, but I like to talk about it because I think it's important. When I would be angry or upset, I would jack off, because regardless of how I'm feeling, it's a consistent result. You're going to feel good after. So it can turn into a coping mechanism, which it did for me.
Wow. So you kind of used a lot of it as like an escape in a way too?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was into a routine for me. I enjoyed it. I loved it. Like, if I had like a lustful dream and I woke up, I'd go right back to sleep because I wanted to get back into that dream. Like, I wanted all that horribleness in my life. I loved it. I didn't understand it yet. I didn't understand how bad it was. But like you said, I just wanted to feel good. And those things made me feel good, but it was always temporary.
I think it's interesting how you also brought up that, like, you started at such a young age, because, like, same, kind of very similar to me. Like, I discovered very young. And I didn't even, like, understand what it was. I was so young. I was like, I thought I was the only one that ever, like.
Me too. Yeah. Me too.
Like, there's probably so many people out there like that, but, like, Dude, I definitely like same thing at school. Like I would even find ways that not in like okay, I don't even know like how to say it, but like it was just like something that was constant for me like a lot when I was younger. And so like I want to touch like just the whole topic of like porn and lust in general. How do you overcome that? Like to the people who are out here, like what was like the biggest thing that helped you overcome that? Because that's a huge thing for men and for anyone, but like for men especially.
So I still do struggle to this day, but what I've come to the conclusion of after a lot of struggling and a lot of trying to learn, the biggest thing for me is just spending less time on social media and more time with God. And if I'm feeling tempted, you have to, for drastic change, you have to take drastic measures. And even if you wake up at 3 a.m. and you're tempted, you have to get out of bed. You have to do something to get your mind off of it. And ideally, you want to get out of the place where you're comfortable enough to do that action and then get into the Word of God. You know, so if I'm in my room and I'm bad, okay, I'm going to go to the couch, let me pray, read my Bible. I struggle with that a lot because, you know, when you wake up in the morning, 3 a.m, you're tired, you don't want to get up.
Yeah.
But that's what I've come to the conclusion of, going to God all the time. Like, your time has to be spent more in God and the social media, because even if you're not on, like, I'm on Christian TikTok, but every once in a while the algorithm will throw something bad at me.
Yeah.
And now my eyes have seen it, and the Bible says your eyes are the lamp of the body. So now the lamp is being destroyed. You know, I'm looking at these wrong things and I'm indulging in that. And then next thing you know, you get a little curious, like, oh, let me just see what her page looks like. And, oh, she's got a link in here. Let me just see what that link says. Like, it leads you into those sites. Like, next thing you know, you're on that website and you don't know how you got there.
Right.
And I feel like it's less of because you want to, it's just a habit. So I would say, yeah, you have to be willing to take drastic measures, and you also have to have self-control. The Bible talks a lot about self-control. I think it's in the Psalms. I apologize for not having the direct verses. It's okay. I should remember the direct verses.
It's all, bro, it's all good.
But it's written that a man without self-control is like a village with their walls torn down.
Ooh.
So if I don't have self-control, every attack coming at me, it's there. Right. Obviously, we have to go to God, yes. And this might be a hot take, but I think a lot of people blame the devil for their lack of self-control. And I was doing that a lot. I was like, oh, the devil's attacking me, man. They're attacking me. But I have flesh, bro. I have flesh. Like, I'm going to struggle with these things. These are real. And I have to be self-controlled and properly attack that.
I love how you just put that. Wow. That's, yeah, a lot of people do that for sure. That's amazing. Wow.
I have a question about, you brought up that you had all these addictions, and then you just kind of turned to God one day.
Yeah.
It's kind of like how it seemed like it worked.
Yeah.
But I want to know, like, you said you always kind of believed in God, but obviously you didn't believe in the words that he was saying, or you didn't have faith in the words that he was saying because you were doing the wrong things basically and weren't convicted by them. Why? Why did you start having convictions?
So to kind of touch on what you were saying about me believing in God and not following the words, that also is directly on head on the nail, you know, like, I knew there was a God based on the fact that I didn't think it was logical for us to be here without some sort of creation, like creator.
Okay.
I always thought there has to be something out there, right? And I think the biggest problem was I believed there was a God, but I never took time to actually read the Bible. So I didn't know what it said. I didn't know what, obviously I would be like, yeah, I guess this is wrong according to the Bible, but I never even processed it. But, dang, I lost track of your question.
Like, why? Like, there was a moment in time where you were, most of your life, you were not convicted of
Yes.
sexual sin and what you're putting into your body. And then one day over the summer, you were like, I'm going to start pursuing God. And that's, I assume, when the conviction started to come to you. Now, why was that?
Dude, I don't know. I think it goes back to that guy that I met on the breezeway, because although his church was false and they believe in some other God, it made me think. It just kind of gave me the time, not the time, but he planted a seed. And the Bible says, I think it's when Jacob was enslaved, you know, and he meets his brothers again. He was like, what you meant for evil, God meant for good, right?
Oh, yeah, that was in Joseph.
Joseph,
yes.
Really good.
And although these people, they didn't know they were doing bad to me because they truly did believe this guy was like Jesus, it was still evil, you know? It's not Jesus.
Yeah.
Right.
And Jesus meant that interaction for good, to bring me to him and learn, oh, wait, these guys know, like the scriptures say otherwise. And as that time went on, I was thinking about this. I was like, okay, like, this is while I'm pledging too. While I'm pledging, I'm thinking, dang, like, I do believe in God. Like, and it'll just be quick. I would think about it and then it'll just go away. But then, like I said, it gets to the point where I'm at home, no one's there. Then I really had time to be thinking. That's when I got convicted. It's just like the living room. And I actually got really excited. I like got up on my couch. I was in the living room. I was like kind of like just being excited, whatever it was. I don't
Felt
know,
that
really
spirit.
Yeah, I felt really excited. And it was amazing. I was like, dang, I got it. Like, we know the truth. We're good.
Yeah.
And that was really that. Yeah, that was where I got the conviction. I think it became from that guy that spoke to me, gave me time to think about it. And then when I was at home and there wasn't other voices in my head, other people talking to me, it was just me trying to come to the conclusion with God. And, you know, God's going to be there. So that was that.
What, did you have a question about that topic?
Yeah, I actually do. So
Go for it.
kind of along the lines of something that I strongly believe in is your company and the people around you. And from what I would imagine after hearing your story, it sounds like a lot of what stemmed to you was that fear of man and like wanting to please people, but also how did the approval that you wanted from man, instead of turning to God, you seek man from that. How did that affect all these things you were doing? Would you accredit a lot of your addictions to the people around you? Like if these people weren't around you, do you think you would have still fallen into them?
I think because I was so curious, and I still am curious about things, I would have at some point gotten to them. But I would say the people that I saw, because I was so curious to do what they were doing and I met them, they kind of sped it up. That's what I said with this one guy that I met in like my freshman year of high school. I didn't meet him then, but around that time, 8th grade, freshman year of high school, that's when he like was like vaping and stuff, and I was like not sure if I should do it, and I just did it because I was curious. But I wasn't really too scared of what they would think if I didn't do it. I just wanted to try it. I was more so worried about them liking me. I didn't care about like the drugs part, but getting drunk, I'd say getting drunk was a part of it actually, yes. I would get really drunk and like try to be funny and stuff, so I would say that was part of it. And I did kind of fear their disapproval, so I would say fear of man played a huge role in it.
Yeah,
because I just wanted their approval, and I wasn't getting my my validation from the right place.
yeah.
I had a question about your wife. Fiance.
Continue, Brandon. What the heck?
What does y'all's, hold on, I want to say it the right way. Yeah, like just what does the relationship that you and your fiance have look like now? And God's policy for sin is that when you ask for forgiveness, he sees you as you are now. There are verses that say he will forget your sin. Not literally, like he's not going to just like, he obviously knows everything. But it's like us humans, we cannot, like you cheated on your fiance at one point. She's never going to forget that you've done that. She could forget you, but she's never going to forget it. Whereas God will genuinely see you truly for who you are now. And us humans, we can't do that. But how does that look in your relationship? She knows that you cheated on her before. How does that affect your relationship now? And what does it look like now that you guys have respected the idea that you are different people?
So the way that it looks now is it can be, sometimes the topic does come up where it's like if I'm doing something and she gets a little untrustworthy, I try to see where she's coming from. And this is something I struggle with sometimes. And I'm open with her because I try to be very open with her about how I feel. And I'm like, trust me, like, I kind of understand why you're upset, but you've also seen my life has changed and I'm not the same person. You're worried about a person that's dead. And I do have to accept the fact that that happened to her and she's going to have overthinking thoughts sometimes. But it does kind of irk me sometimes because I'm like, damn, I've changed my whole life. Like, I'm a different person. I didn't just do it for you. I did it for God. But because I did it for God, you're also, you know, with me because of God. And sometimes I'm still a man. I'm not perfect. I'll struggle in our relationship. Yeah. But our relationship looks so much better. And she actually does trust me. She does. Compared to our last relationship where she had no trust for me, I couldn't do anything. Like, at first she trusted me, but then I cheated on her. Then it was like, okay, I don't trust you anymore. You know what I mean? But now, if it ever comes up, I try my best to understand why, but then I try to also remind her, like, listen, like I said, that's a dead person. You know, that's not me. That is somebody else. And I show it through my fruits of my life, you know? I mean, the Bible does say that pornography is cheating, but I have told her about those struggles, and she knows. And, like, lustful struggles, she knows about those things. Like, I'm not going to hide it from her.
Yeah.
But when it comes to, like, actually sleeping with another woman, I used to love that stuff, like cheating. I thought it was, like, great. I used to advocate for it. But now,
Because you were like, you had the dark fantasies when you were younger. That's like all part of like the euphoric high of the fantasies, right? Yeah.
yeah, and I would try to put those fantasies into play, and which I did. But now, like, I couldn't even fathom the idea of it. Like, I would feel so horrible.
Yeah.
I think about it sometimes, like not cheating on her, but like what it would actually feel like now. And I guess it's a disgusting feeling in my body. Like, I'm so dead to that, and I'm so grateful for that, because cheating was horrible. I didn't think I was ever going to be able to be loyal to a girl, especially in that time of my life, because I just didn't know how to do it. I was like, how could I? There's so many women here. Like, my duty as a man is to please them and like do my thing. That's what I thought. I was like, my duty as a man is to sleep with as many girls as I can.
Wow. There's a lot of people that think like that. So that's crazy.
You said, speaking about how it disgusted you, you used to do drugs, party, and I'm sure you still have some friends that are like that.
Yes.
And how have they tempted you, and what is the club and drugs? Like, what does that make you feel? What emotions does it stir up?
So I would say the only drug that still tempts me is nicotine. I haven't vaped in a while, but it does tempt me. Sometimes I look at it, I'm like, oh, maybe it feels good. Then I'm like, nah. Like, I haven't vaped in a while. I haven't smoked in a while. I haven't done any drugs in a while. I think since being saved, I've gotten drunk maybe once or twice, but it wasn't like a sloppy drunk. It was like, I'm full on food. I'm drinking a lot of water, but I was drunk. I shouldn't have been drunk. I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say I should have been.
Why do you think you fell into that after being saved?
Rather wrong people. I got home from this. I was in this. What was it? I think it was spring break or something. I was home, and me and my fiance are trying to find parking on the beach. It's St. Pete Beach, and she's like, "You got to know somebody down here." I'm like, "Oh wait, I do know somebody down here. My buddy that I used to play basketball with a long time ago. He lives in that area." So I hit him up, and I'm like, "Yo, bro, like, have you been? Like, what are you doing?" And I was like, "Hey, dog, I got a quick question. Like, can I park at your house and like Uber to the beach?" And he let us. And it was 4th of July. It's 4th of July.
So beach week.
We got home. Well, we got to his place, and we're getting ready to leave. And, you know, his friends are there, and me and my girl are there. And he's like, "Yo, you guys can stay the night if you want. Like, it's fine." Like, I haven't seen him in 2 years, in a while. And ended up getting drunk, you know. And it was just, I think it's the crowd. Like, I still love him. He's a great guy. And, you know, I pray that God works in his life. But it doesn't mean that I'm not going to be tempted, because I don't think he means to do that. But oftentimes our truth is different from other people's truth. So it is not, in their eyes, it's not them doing something bad to us. It's just like, you know, it's just happening. Like, it's whatever.
I kind of relate to this a lot, because like being here and back home is like two different crowds of people that I'm very close with. Here it's a lot of believers that like it's part of my community, and then back home it's like non-believers. And it's so interesting the amount of temptation I feel in the different environments. Like back home over the summer, I was faced with so much more temptation than when I'm here. And Proverbs 1:10 says, "If sinners entice you, turn your back on them." What do you think is like a good medium to being friends with these people still that once dragged us so far into sin, but also turning our backs on them?
So what I've practiced in my life, the first thing is, if I'm feeling like I want to go do something or hang out with somebody, I should hang out with God, right? Like, I spend time in the Word, be in the Bible. Like, if I have free time and I want to hang out with a buddy, let me go to God. Like, that's my Father in heaven. It's pretty sure the Bible says to call him Abba. Like, I forget, you know, like the context of it. But that's a very dear term, you know.
Yeah.
They're very close. So that's the first thing, to try to spend time with God, of course. That's always my first option. The second thing is limiting the time I'm with them and the scenario I'm with them in. So if I do want to hang out with them, yo, let's go work out. You want to grab food real quick? I'm not going to come over to your house late at night and just sit there. You know.
How do you do that with your fiance? How do you avoid like having sex with each other and sexual sin with your partner?
Yeah.
So
What do your boundaries look like?
I actually need to talk to her about a new boundary because I've been thinking about it, like not sleeping in the same bed together. I don't think we should anymore because that's a big temptation.
Yeah.
And that's going to be hard for us to get by because, I love being next to her, but like biblically, she's not mine.
Yeah.
So right now, what we do is we don't kiss or anything. Like sometimes we do great. Other times we fall. And the boundary is, if we're tempted, we have to go to God immediately.
So you don't kiss?
No. Unless we're like screwing up, then like, we kiss. But like if I'm kissing her on the lips and stuff, then like, I'm more tempted to go deeper.
I've met a man who used to struggle so much with that sexual sin that he said he wouldn't kiss his wife until their wedding day. So like I don't think it's that odd or far off to do stuff like that, especially it's like a huge temptation.
I just think that in nowadays culture, like to hear that is just mind blowing to me. And I'm definitely gonna take some of your advice because I kissed my girlfriend and I never so this is how I thought about it, which you're doing a great job of. Like setting if the line of sin is, I don't know, head or something past kiss, like making out, say that's what sin is, and then making out, we'll say it's okay, and we'll say kissing's okay, whatever. But that if you kiss, you're gonna want to make out. If you make out, you're gonna want to do the rest. So you're setting the bar really far back, which I think is so like admirable and respectable of you. That's just amazing. Are you the only person that does that?
I think so.
Yeah,
the reason I got the idea was from that guy at Crew. I don't know if you guys were there. It was like last year. The guy who came in and talked about marriage. He started talking about.
I just quoted him. That was his thing.
Yeah, I was like, damn, that's just like him.
Yeah,
that was a great sermon. I still remember it.
That's where I got that from because I was like, okay, whenever I kiss her, I just want to make out with her. Then like I want to have sex with her and do all these things. Like, and when I don't kiss her, ever since we stopped kissing, I would say our sexual activity definitely dropped.
Yeah,
it's still there. But like we actually had a time where we went like 2 months, no kissing, no anything, and that was like the best I've ever done with her. And I'm very proud of that time. But I want to get back to that, Like I want to be that consistently, but it's really hard for me. And that's why I'm trying to say like I don't think I can sleep in the same bed as her anymore. And that's going to be very hard for her and hard for me because like we want to be around each other, we love each other, but we have to put God first. We have to.
And how do you be intimate and maintain like intimacy without the physical part of it?
I think the deepest level of intimacy is praying with somebody and being vulnerable with somebody.
That's a good point. So I have a couple of friends who have some different altering viewpoints as other Christians when it comes to growing in their faith with their partner. Now you're about to be married. So once you are married, I would say that it's different than how you are now. And since I have a girlfriend, he has a girlfriend. It's, I told my girlfriend, like, I don't want to be praying with you all the time. I don't want to be doing Bible studies with you all the time. I want to, because it's supposed to be like, a lot of people think of it as like a triangle. You and your wife are a triangle going toward God. So I think of it like this. I think of there's two separate lines. There's you're here. This is your wife. This is God. This is God. You're both growing toward God so that when you're married, you're equally yoked. And then now you're together as one, just still growing as one line toward God. So I think that obviously it's not bad to pray with anybody. It's like if you're going to treat it like they're your friend, basically. Like you don't want to have an idol when it comes to worship. Like I struggled with this in the past. Like I kind of idolized a woman, and I liked her more than I liked God. I liked hanging out with her more than I liked hanging out with God. But she liked to hang out with God, so it made me hang out with God more. But then I realized I was idolizing her and not God. So that's something scary that I would just, just how you're not kissing your wife, it's the same thing as me choosing not to have like deep philosophical Bible related topics with my woman. We'll pray and stuff, but I think it's dangerous to do that before you're married. You're supposed to grow with your spouse, not with your girlfriend. If I were to have a best friend and I ended up subconsciously not knowing that I was relying on that person to grow my relationship with God, I'm not saying that you are doing that, and I don't think you are, and I don't think that Gavin is.
I get what you're saying.
And I don't think that I am, but I'm saying it happens all the time. This is what I'm saying. There's a lot of guys out there, well, I guess in my life, I've seen a lot of guys who have a girlfriend who's Christian, and they become a Christian, and then it's really like they break up, and then they stop being Christian.
So is what you're trying to say to me is that like I should have time spent with my fiance in the sense of like, it's me trying to grow our relationship. And then also the time where, we're praying and being intimate with God.
So I'm just saying, like, my question was, how do you stay intimate? Like, I don't know if praying, like, if the one thing that I thought was keeping our relationship together was praying together. Like, I don't know my viewpoint on that. I don't know. 'Cause I don't know if that goes against the idea of growing together or growing as separates before you become one.
So the reason I said prayer as intimacy is because we also have to be vulnerable in our sin and vulnerable for each other. And obviously that comes first, but being vulnerable for God. So us coming together, holding hands, praying, and like praying over each other and praying for each other. I think that's so intimate because I love the fact that God has blessed me with a woman that wants to be with him. So I love to share that blessing from God with her. But from the other side of things, like how do I keep the intimacy? I would say a big thing is like, going on dates, making sure that although I'm not physically touching her, I'm telling her like, wow, you're beautiful. Like, I love you. Like, you're everything I want. Like, you're the girl that I want. You know what I mean? Like, I've chosen you, like trying to make sure I'm verbally reassuring her. And cause I just read this in the Bible. I wish I knew where it was at, but I think it was Paul talking about relationships.
It would better be single.
Or it might be Psalms somewhere, but it says how when you're in a relationship, you also have to keep in mind of your spouse, like what you were saying.
It's probably 1 Corinthians.
It's somewhere, but it says, like if you're in a relationship, you also have to keep them in mind.
Yeah.
So it's like what you said, making sure that you're keeping that intimacy. You're also thinking about them. So I don't think what you're saying is wrong at all. Like, I think I agree that you have to make sure, okay, yeah, we're with God, but I have to remember I'm playing a role in this relationship and I have to provide that need for you.
Yeah, just like remember to love God more than you love your partner.
Yeah. So kind of on this topic that I have written down here, and it's funny because I was talking to my roommate about this idea last night, but you've brought it up a lot. It's like the point that the Bible doesn't talk about dating. It only talks about marriage. And so something that me and my roommate were trying to figure out, we've kind of been discussing a little bit here and there over the past few weeks, is what does the responsibility of a man in a dating relationship look like? Because I feel like too many Christian men sometimes overstep their duties when they're dating a girl, and they try to be kind of like a husband and like leading them completely 100% when we're not called to do that until we are married to someone, until we become one with them. So what is your like view on this?
I've actually never been asked that question. That's actually making me think about my relationship right now. So now that you've told me that, that's a whole new perspective. Okay. My thoughts on that. I think, me personally, I don't really know much biblically about this. But like, I'm trying to keep a biblical perspective.
Right.
Like you said, if it's not my duty, I don't think it means I still shouldn't be there for her. But I should kind of be learning how to become that man for her. Because I think courting is okay, like, dedicating yourself to one another and then getting married. But I agree that we shouldn't overstep our boundaries. Like, me and her don't have the same bank account or anything. Like, we haven't merged everything together. We don't file as married or anything. Like when I do my financial aid, it's single.
Right.
Married or anything. Like, but my question is, what boundaries would you say would overstepping? Like, when you say leading, like, what kind of examples of leading would you mean?
So I guess like my example is like men are like meant to lead the relationships. And so when I read that and hear that, it makes me think like I'm the one that's not calling the shots, but like my significant other is putting trust in me to be like, if this is what's going to happen, she'll just take it up without any questions and be like, okay, I trust you. Is that something we should be practicing and following in dating or no?
Well, I think that if you're dating in the first place, I think you still have to ask yourself that question of like, all right, like, are we going to choose each other? Are we going to get married? Like, are we going to dedicate ourselves? And that should be the first thing. But the second thing is, I think you got to kind of find that line of like, okay, yeah, I'm preparing to be a man in a marriage and you're preparing to be a woman in this marriage. It's all biblical. So we should prepare ourselves. But I also kind of agree with the question, the fact that we shouldn't overstep our boundary.
Right.
Like, because like I was saying earlier, she's not mine.
Right.
Not hers yet. We haven't gotten married, So I actually think I got to start applying that a bit more to my life as well. You know, making sure I'm not overstepping boundaries and trying to act like something that I'm not.
Have you guys done the play move in together thing yet? Like, have you guys ever had a period of time where you're like moved in together?
No.
No.
I mean, we've had like sleepovers and stuff.
So when you say like you don't want to sleep in the same bed as her, is that just like you guys will just like spend the night at each other's place or something? Okay.
Yeah. And before we move in, we're actually going to get married. Like, we want to be married before we move in together. But like, you know, I have to make sure I'm not just justifying things I'm doing. Like, if I'm going to sleep over at her house, you know, I got to remember, like, okay, she's not mine. Why are we sharing the same bed?
Right.
And these are hard things to put into play, but I have to remember, okay, God comes first. Like, it might upset her, it might upset me, but, you know, you're challenging me in my faith, which is amazing. So I think I need to, like, actually apply some of the things you're talking about a bit more in my life.
Yeah, bro. Same with you. I feel like hearing like the extremes you've taken. It's like I realize like some people's relationships look different because of the struggles they have. Like or even their lives in general. Like I saw one sermon, a pastor was talking about how he limits so much of his phone to like where he can barely use it because he struggled so much with porn. And someone asked him like, they like mocked him like, "Are you really so weak? Do you have to do this?" And he was like, "Yes, it's because I'm this weak. I have to take such drastic measures, like you said before." Like how you said that. So like I understand like not every relationship might need the extremities that you have put into place. Like there's definitely some stuff that you've said today that like I feel like I want to implement into my relationship.
Yeah,
for sure.
For example, like it says, if your hand causes you to sin, cut your hand.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like for some people, this might be your hand and you should cut it off, which I guess kissing or making out was for you. And for others, I guess when they kiss their girlfriends, they just don't seem as much. But you definitely have convicted me for sure, because I think that you are a God-fearing man and actually want to know God, whereas there's a lot of Christians who they know a lot about God, but their faith in Him isn't actually that great. But you genuinely, what you've described to us is just your reverence of God is so high. Like the fact that you're like, well, I can't really kiss her because she's not mine. Like that, just that shows how much you want what's right for God. Or I guess that would be what's right for you as well, which is just amazing to me. So that's definitely convicting for me right now.
And I also appreciate the questions you're asking me too, because I didn't want to ask, but you were going to ask me because I wanted to like be authentic. And I appreciate that question, especially about the relationship thing and the boundaries. I've never been asked that. I've never even thought about that.
Dude, that's just like something that's been on my mind and heart a lot lately. Is like as men, I've seen a lot of like, I've talked to a lot of people in Christian relationships, and they talk to me as if they're married to this woman. It's like, we do X, Y, Z, I do this. And it's like, is that really your role? Is that your position right now? And like, in my relationship, like like some of you guys, a lot of growth by ourselves. And it's only been like a month and a week. So it's not like a lot of opportunities for, okay, maybe I would lead in this area. But it's definitely something I've been thinking about. So I just was curious on your viewpoint on it, because you've been in a longer relationship and you're more serious and you seem very wise and all that. So,
Well, thank you. All glory to God, man.
And I have a question about your wife or your fiance.
And also, real quick too, the question you asked me earlier about like not putting my girl above God. I actually thought about that in my head too. I was like, dang, like if I lost her, like would I be good? You know, obviously I'd be really struggling in life, but you know, I have to remember, like, if God takes that out of my life for whatever possibly could happen, I got to remember, she's not my God.
right.
Yeah.
Amen.
And that made me think, too. So I'm glad we're doing this, because
This is I love this.
important.
Well, why did you decide to marry her so quickly?
It kind of goes back to the fact that, you know, there's no dating. There's no, like, let me feel this out. Let me think about this. It's a choice. Jesus was so stressed that he was bleeding blood, blood. He said, pass this cup for me. He said, if it's any way, you know, he didn't really want to be out of God's presence. He didn't want to become sin and have his father turn his face from him.
Yeah, here, let me pick your brain real quick. So, we have these friends, Zane.
I know Zane.
You know Zane? Well, he was talking to me about marriage, and at one point over the summer, I was convinced, like, the idea of how a lot of Christians get married really quickly, and I really was just like, I don't really get it. I feel like they're just doing it to have sex. And I came to the fact that I didn't agree with that, because I met some people who I just saw their relationship and they're like, they're doing this because it's what's right. The sight, oh my gosh, in the eyes of the Lord, inside of the Lord. And so I was totally for like meeting a girl and then marrying her in like less than a year, which I thought was so cool that I had that mindset now. Then I was talking to Zane, and he said that you're supposed to separate from your family and become one. If I met a girl now and married her in a year, my finances are still totally connected to my parents. If my parents cut me out of their life, like, I'm a completely different person. And so I personally, like, I don't know where you are, I personally would not be able to get married. And I don't want to get married until I can have that financial stability and the ability to be the same person without my parents as I am with them now. So I don't know if that affects you at all, but
You actually just sparked something in my head, and I completely agree with you. Because me and my fiance were actually going to be married already, like a couple months ago. But there were some stipulations with family and those situations, and we couldn't do it. And now that you're putting it like that, it makes so much more sense why God didn't allow it to happen, because I am not independent. I am dependent. I'm on my dad's taxes. You know, when I go home for Tampa, I'm living with my mom. I'm not completely on my own. My fiance lives with her mom. There's a reason why God let that happen. So that made me thank you, because that makes more sense now. I was like, dang, I supposed to be married already, because, like, on the point of getting married to have sex, I think getting married strictly to have sex is probably a horrible reason.
yeah.
But if you're burning with passion, it's better to marry.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's a bad reason, but it's honestly not the worst reason, because at least Paul says, 1 Corinthians, that it's better to marry than burn with your selfish fleshly desires. What are you saying?
No, wait.
I was just saying the same thing. It's like it's better to be within the law than have to bend it.
Also, I just wanted to let the viewers know, because we've been talking about this one verse a lot, Genesis 2:24. This is why a man leaves his father and mother and is united to his wife, and they become one in flesh.
What verse is it?
Genesis 2:24. So if you guys want to do research or you're just curious, just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, everything I am saying, I wish I had the verses exactly, but if you just look up what I'm saying, it is a Bible verse. I'm very good at remembering what it kind of said, but I only have like 4 verses completely memorized in my brain.
Did you have any more questions, Brandon, related to relationship stuff? Because I had one more I wanted to...
No, you please go ask.
All right, let's go. So one thing I noticed with your testimony is something that I know for me is one of the reasons the addictions that I had were so strong and they had such a stronghold in my life is because I concealed them for a while. And so I just was curious regarding you. What was the first time that you admitted to someone that you struggled?
So I won't have an answer for this either, because I actually kind of forgot about this happening in my life. But there was someone in my life, the first person that I really admitted to, that I struggled with porn addiction when it was actually seeping into my personal life. So there was a person that I was like doing things with their girlfriend, and the truth came to light over the years. And when asked why, I really had to think why. And obviously I had this kind of pitiful reason, but the main reason was the fantasies from porn, like the rush of it and doing all these things. And when that secret got exposed, it was the first person that I told, like, yo, like, and I didn't even think about it to that point. When he told me, when I was forced to talk about it, I was like, dang, porn has actually affected my real life now. And I had to explain to him, like, bro, I have a porn addiction.
How old were you when this happened?
I was 19, 20.
So that's like 10 years of like not telling anyone at all?
Yeah, it went on for like 4 years. And then it came out.
I thought you said you started back in 3rd grade.
Well, this is about when I had to actually tell this person. The 3rd grade thing is true, yeah, that all started then. But when I actually acted on it in person, like,
okay.
like when it went from not just me and porn, it went from me, porn, and somebody else, their relationship now.
Okay.
Now I'm involved in that because my fantasy of cheating and this and that is actually happening.
So how did like you verbally putting that in the air, admitting that, how did that, like, did that change anything or no?
It changed a lot for me because it made me really realize that this is actually a problem. Because before I came to God, I tried stopping jacking off, and I was like, oh, I can't, whatever, just keep going. It didn't mean much to me. But now that I'm with God and the onion layers kind of peeled back, I started to really realize this is an actual problem that's going to affect my life, and it already has.
Do you think Satan tried to keep you from telling anyone? Like, did you have opportunities where you could open up to people about it and you just like, you kind of just hid back?
I had times where I was nervous, and I broke past that layer, which is amazing now. I'm glad I've broken past that layer. But now I'm at the next layer of, okay, people know now But now it's on me to go to God and be self-controlled. Because, yeah, they know, but that's just one part of the problem. They know, but I get to go home tonight, and I have no obligation to pick up the phone and call you and say, yo, I'm tempted. I don't have any obligation to put my phone down. It's up to me at that point to make a self-conscious decision to not put myself in a position to fail. And that's where I think going to God comes into play. And that was, to answer your question, yeah, that was like the very first time that I had to verbally tell someone that I struggled with it, and it opened my eyes a lot.
Last question kind of like that is like, I never have ever struggled with drugs. So that's not something that I really completely understand. But was it hard to get off of them? Because I know I've heard they're very addicting. Like,
funny enough, drugs were the easiest thing for me to stop.
Really? Why do you think that was?
The big thing was my curiosity. Like I said earlier, was the biggest reason why I did it. My whole philosophy, besides the woman thing, was I wanted to try every drug on earth, whether I was addicted to it or just did it once. And that was why it was easy for me to get off of like Molly and ketamine and DMT, because I did those things only once or twice. I did Xanax twice, drank lean a couple, like once or twice, and those were easy. But with the weed, I had actually tried starting to quit weed before I came to God. So I was kind of on that path already. I was still smoking, but I'd gotten, I don't know if you know this, but a lot of people that smoke, they can't eat if they're not high. And that was how I was.
Really?
I couldn't eat if it wasn't high. So scientifically, when you smoke, you're producing cannabinoids in your body, an external force. So your body's like, okay, I no longer need to produce these cannabinoids because your body produces that. And it has to do with your hunger as well. It's like hunger hormones. So I wasn't smoking anymore. My body is out of deprived with hunger hormones, and I wasn't hungry. Even if I had one bite of a Cheeto all day.
Bro, this is making me think. I have another question. Sorry, Brandon. I think a lot of these things that people do to themselves, whether it's porn or whether it's drugs, they like know it's bad. Like, obviously you were trying to quit before you came to God. So why is it that so many people are consumed by it? Is it just the good feeling, or like, do you guys know like truly how bad it is when you're doing it?
Yeah. So for me, the hardest problem was A, it felt really good. B, the people around me were doing it. And C, even if you liked it and you wanted to stop, now you're at the part where it's like, okay, now I have to battle the withdrawals and the repercussions of quitting. So yeah, for me, it was the feeling, the friends, and the actual action of quitting. And I think that third step is the hardest, because you're not always around your friends, but nothing will stop me from hitting up my dealer and saying, yo, like,
yeah,
can I get some weed? Like, it's not that expensive to get enough to just roll a blunt.
Interesting.
And I think that was the hardest thing, because, I'll say 4, you have to have a reason. A reason was God. If you have no real reason, yeah, your health matters and all this, but realistically, nobody cares about that. Like, they don't care enough. If you're smoking and doing all that, you probably don't care enough about your physical health as it is. So that's why God plays such a huge role in everything, because I was an actual reason. I was like, okay, I want God, and I don't want to be a lukewarm Christian. So I think having a reason, you need to have a really strong reason.
Wow, I love that. Yeah.
This is a convicting podcast.
Dude, I know. I feel like there's like...
I learned a lot more than I thought I was going to learn.
Is there any questions you have for us?
Yeah. Honestly, no, because you guys have kind of been adding your own dialogue in along the way. So everything that I was going to ask you guys, you kind of answered as you spoke to me. So that was nice. I mean, yeah, I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of everything. Oh, do you have anything else, Brandon?
I'm trying to think, but my brain's overwhelmed with data right now.
A lot going on.
All right, you're like a healthy guy, right? You try to be healthy?
Yes. I love basketball.
Are you like on any strict diets or anything? Or I think it's become like a trend. Okay, I'm gonna just put this out there. I love cold plunges. I just got into them, and it's just become like this huge trend on like social media. I feel like
you gotta let me come over and do it,
bro.
Is that at your house, or where is it?
Yeah, it's at my house in Tampa.
Okay.
Ooh, actually, I'll tell you off camera about this, but I'll tell you something off camera.
Okay.
But why do you think, like, is that how you got into it, or like what made you? Was it just the coming to Jesus, like your body's a temple? Like, what made you get into your health?
Even before I came to God, I always loved working out, and I played basketball my whole life. So I didn't lift weights as much as I practiced basketball. But as I got to college, I started to realize, as I'm playing basketball, my knees kind of hurt. And I had knee pain and stuff in high school, and this guy is there probably the knees over toes guy. He has all these crazy workouts to help your knees. Big thing for me was wanting to be athletic. I love the idea of being strong, but if you're strong and you're not mobile, I don't want to just be like any movable object. I want to be like able to walk around,
Yeah.
run and jump, and like I think I said this earlier. I want to be able to play catch with my kids, and I want to be a good example for my kids.
For sure. Yeah.
So, because a big reason why I started working out in high school was I wanted to look good for girls, and I had to address that early on in my faith. I was like, okay, why am I working out now? Am I working out for looks, or am I working out for myself? And even then, from a pride, myself, looking at myself in the mirror, flexing, oh, I look good. Like, I don't want to be doing this for less reasons. I don't want to be doing it for prideful reasons. So now I do it for mobility. You know, my fiance, she needs help in the kitchen, and we need to move. Like, my mom just moved from our house into an apartment. She had a spinal surgery to get a tumor removed. She can't move. I got to get out there and do that. Me and my brother are out there from 9 a.m. in the morning till 6 p.m. We're moving couches. We're moving heavy things. It's tiring. But if I'm not physically capable to do that, I am now a hindrance to my mother. I'm not doing my job.
I love how you put that, because like back to what you're saying, the reason for like quitting or doing anything in life can become boiled down to the reason why. And like, here's another example. Like, why do I read my Bible every day? Because it's not like the easiest thing to do. Sometimes it can be like hard to want to, like you said, wake up and make yourself do it. It's like, why do you do it? If you just do it to check off the box, you're not going to like get anything out of it, and it's going to be harder to do. But if you do it because you genuinely want to grow that relationship with God, then it's something that will come easier, and it'll give you more of a reason to do it. Same with like why you work out in the gym. So I like how you put that a lot.
Yeah, I think a reason is the biggest thing, honestly.
Yeah.
So important.
Found the verse about burning with desire. I was right. 1 Corinthians 7, verse 9. But if they do not have self-control, let them get married, for it is better to marry than to burden with sexual desire.
Yeah, that is what I was referring to earlier. I think it was when we were talking about the getting married for sex.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still think it's wrong to get married for sex, but I mean, he said it. If you're burning with passion, right? I mean,
Right.
It's better to be married than not to be married.
Yeah.
So at that point, then now it's like you still are getting married to have sex in a sense.
That's true. I mean, I think that he said it's better. He didn't say it was the best option. He said it was better. You're right. He said it was better.
You're right.
I don't know. That's all I got.
Yeah. Dude, Mark, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you guys for this. I learned a lot about you guys. Like I was saying, I wish I had some more questions, but you were answering them kind of.
It's all
as
good,
you
brother.
messaged me and answered. Like when you responded, I kind of got what I was going to ask anyways. So thank you guys for helping me.
Also, guys, Mark has a little podcast of his own. You want to tell the viewers a little bit about it?
It's just called The Mark Robles Show, and it's basically about sports mainly. Football, basketball, a little bit of UFC. I'm trying to learn more about it.
You got a fantasy team?
I don't play fantasy sports because I forget about it, and then I come back and there's like 3 players in IR, and my team is losing. But yeah, I just post sports content really, and I sometimes I'll post about God. I'm still trying to learn more about God, and I don't want to mislead anybody, so I try to make sure I'm pretty sound on my faith or have an idea what the topic is I'm talking about. But yeah, it's like basically sports and faith. That's my podcast.
Awesome. Well,
I'm Gavin.
and I'm Brandon.
And I'm Mark.
And he's Mark.
And this is the Grain of Salt podcast, the number one podcast that you should take with a grain of salt. Thank you guys for tuning in. See you guys next week. Peace out.